On behalf of the University of the West of England, UE Bristol, I'm really delighted to invite you to the latest event in our Bristol Distinguished Address series. I'm Professor Amanda Coffey. I'm Deputy Vice-Chancellor and Provost at UE Bristol. And it's my absolute pleasure to invite some very special guests to talk to us this evening. I'm really delighted to welcome Camilla, Rigby and Rachel Mostyn to our latest event here. Camilla and Rachel, as many of you know, are the co-founders and CEOs of the award-winning Women's Work Lab. And we're going to hear more about their work and their vision over the course of the next hour or so. Women's Work Lab is a Bristol-based business focused on doing well by doing good. And since launching in 2019, they've supported over 300 mums on their employment journey into careers that work for them and their families. And I know they have plans to support many more women over the coming year. I'm also really delighted to welcome Sam Cuffey to join us as well this evening, the Women's Lab Programme Manager and also an alum of the programme, and she'll also be sharing her experiences with us today. Passionate advocates of inclusive employment practices and of creating a more equitable working world, Camilla and Rachel's work has not gone unnoticed, and in March of this year they were awarded the Prime Minister's Points of Light Award, which recognises people who have inspired others and made a positive change in their community. I couldn't be more proud that they've agreed to join us for this evening and to share their story so far and a little of their plans for the future. So over the course of the next hour, we'll have the privilege of hearing a little of their story and of their vision, the hows and the whys, perhaps some of the how-nots, and their future plans. I'm very much looking forward to the conversation, and I'm sure you are too. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the other Rachel, who's going to be the host for this evening's conversation and question and answer at the end as well. Okay, enjoy.
Thank you, Amanda. Good evening, everybody. So I work for the university. I work for the business and the law school specifically, and I engage with our stakeholders and our wider community. And in 2022, I think we have the power of LinkedIn and networks more generally to thank for the fact that I was introduced to the Women's Work Lab, particularly to Camilla, and they were looking for some space to run their workshops for their programme. So we were delighted to be able to help at the business school, and I think it very much aligns with the values of the university and transforming lives through education. We then hosted 3 of the mums as well within my team on work placements, which has been an amazing experience to see the growth from the start when they come and they're all very nervous, and the personal growth and development that you see over the course of those 4 weeks is just phenomenal, which I know Camilla, Rachel and Samantha are going to talk to us this evening about. Camilla's also an alumni of the university. She did a business programme a number of years ago, and she was featured in our 30 to Watch alumni campaign as part of our 30th anniversary. So it's my pleasure and delight to host the event this evening. I'm going to leave the stage now and hand it over to Camilla.
Thank you, Rachel. We're not going to have loads of slides, don't worry, that isn't our style. Thank you to everyone for coming. As Samantha and Rachel have heard earlier, this is every bit of my anxiety of, is no one going to come, first and foremost, to then be replaced with, oh my gosh, what if there's absolutely loads of people that come and then I forget what I'm going to say. I think we are in a good place. This is good. There's enough people here. I'm feeling quite good and confident. So thank you, first and foremost. So I would like everyone to start by casting your minds back to May 2015 as a little jolt for you, which I hadn't actually realised until I had a look on the internet earlier. David Cameron had just entered number 10 as the Conservative Prime Minister with a Conservative majority. Not just that was happening. I was working very hard. I had a 2- and 4-year-old son at the time, not long. I'd been back at just over a year from maternity leave after having my second child. And my boss had bought me a copy of Sheryl Sandberg's new book, which was called Lean In. And I don't know if anyone remembers the Lean In book, but the general premise of it was that women, when they have children, should lean into their careers rather than leaning out. And Sheryl, that was COO of Facebook at the time, on a 7-figure salary, I would imagine, with an army of nannies and a very, I would imagine, forgiving other half, was telling everyone how it was really, really important that you could have it all. You could have your career, you could be a mum. And I, at the time, was really bought into it. I was like, yes, I can do this. I had a really big job and I was really loving it. But then fast forward another year later and I was on my knees. I was absolutely broken. I was working full time. I was knackered most of the time, if I'm honest with you. I was very much leaning in at work, but still not feeling quite good enough. Getting home, often missing bedtime, bath time, having gone out for yet another work drinks because I didn't want to miss out on anything. And then just feeling like a fairly crap mum and wife, if I'm honest with you. The saying, and this is the only bit I'm going to try and read from here, was women are supposed to work like they don't have kids and mother like they don't work outside the home. Really, really spoke to me. And I reached my tipping point, I would say. I think it was in June 2016. And I handed my notice in and it was really, really hard and possibly one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make, if I'm honest with you. Like Rachel mentioned, I went to UE, I did a business degree. I kind of found my educational form, if you like, quite late in life. I now understand much more that it's based on my neurodivergence, but I found that traditional kind of study didn't really work for me. But when I went to university, I did a sandwich degree, I was out working. I'd worked since I was 14 and it was always a way for me to have my sense of identity. When I handed my notice in, I was one of the most senior women in the organisation that I was working at. I had spent my entire working career, so 15 years at that point, of having my entire identity wrapped up with my professional life. And so suddenly to stop all of that was really, really, really tough. I entered into quite a dark place, and I think reflecting now, whether or not I don't know what constitutes a breakdown or not, but I was in a really, really bad place for quite a long time. Trying to figure out what to do. I kind of did a bit of consultancy, freelance stuff, and it really wasn't setting my heart on fire. But I felt really sad that I had, in my own view anyway, failed at being a working mum, and I felt really passionately about being a working mum. I during this period of time, I, as I say, was reflecting a lot and reflecting on my own early childhood, and I guess recognising at the time that whilst I felt things were bad, they weren't that bad really. And I started to think about my mum. So my mum had grown up on a council estate in Cornwall. She'd left school at 16 and she'd worked since she was 12 really. My mum had worked hard, like she'd always worked hard. I have memories of my summer holidays spent at our granny and granddad's 1-bedroom flat in Cornwall whilst my mum worked because she couldn't afford holiday childcare for us. She always really instilled in me this absolute need to be financially independent from a man. That was always her thing. My dad had behaved pretty badly, hence why they broke up. But I remember my mum working and working and working. And I also remember that my second job out of university, when I joined Dyson, which is somewhere that I spent 5 years working really well. And I remember ringing my mum, being like, "Mum, I've got the job, I'm so excited." And I told her how much I was earning. She was like, "Oh my gosh, you're earning more than I am." And I remember at the time being like, I'm 26 and like my mum's in her mid-50s and she's always worked really bloody hard. That's weird. And when I came back to that, when I was having this moment in time, and I started to really, for the first time, and I'm slightly embarrassed to say it, but for the first time in my life really, start to understand what social inequality looks like, what social mobility looks like, and what my own privilege looks like. And those three things were quite uncomfortable, if I'm honest with you, and as I was trying to look around of what am I going to do next, what am I going to do next, I kept on coming back to the place of I can do something to support women who are like my mum, who are really bloody clever, who work really bloody hard, but they just haven't had the connections and the people like I had been fortunate enough to have in my career to pull me up and to bring me along. Luckily for me, during this time, I met Rachel. So I'd started, I guess the fire in my belly had been lit around wanting to do more to help mums, wanting to really be active in the space, but wanting to help mums who didn't necessarily, sorry to say it, have a university education yet, or hadn't necessarily had the right connections. And I started to get involved in some citywide initiatives around women's rights, and put on a couple of events, of which Rach came and chaired for me, because she's a journalist by trade. I always say that by trade. But actually, having met, I guess, through a work capacity, we both quickly really bonded around our shared values. That was something that both of us felt really, really strongly about, was sharing this privilege, sharing this, all of our experience, all of our context. How can we use this to help more women and more mums in particular? So that was, I guess, it took a bit longer for me to persuade Rachel to come and do something with me, because I think she thought, oh, I'm not quite sure about this one. But over time, I wore her down and we decided to do something together. We didn't know exactly what it was going to be, but we wanted to do something. And we wanted to do something that was for mums, but not mums that looked and sounded like us. That was our starting point. We could see that there were lots of good charities and other social enterprises that were doing things for young people, of which there's always going to be space for that, quite frankly, in society. But we couldn't see anything that once someone hits 25, what happens with the support? Who then steps in to help these people? And we couldn't find anything. So we went to the council and said, hey, what's happening for mums over 25, let's say, that might want to get back into work? And they're like, nothing. Do you want to do something? And we were like, okay. And so that really was the start of it. So that was in 2017. We then spent a good year, I would say, both of us doing freelance work to pay the bills, because, that kind of didn't disappear suddenly. And we were out and we were going to community groups, we were going to children's centres, and we were speaking to the mums and listening to the mums, more importantly, to understand what is it that is getting in the way of you and work right now. And the three things that kept on coming up time and time again were a lack of confidence, which won't surprise a lot of people, will be a lack of affordable and available childcare, which unfortunately has got significantly worse over the last 5 years. And the third thing was a lack of recent work experience. And immediately we were like, I think we can help with some of these things. So what we then set about doing was co-designing with these mums what a solution could look like. I hate that word solution, but what something could look like that could help move them closer to work. And that was the beginnings of what is now our Hive programme. We call it Hive because it stands for history. So it's about working with the mums to reflect on their lives so far, what's happened, what shaped them, of who you are. We have the I is for insight. So I had benefited hugely, as had Rachel, from really amazing corporate training and coaching that tells you about your personality type and what your strengths are. And we wanted to bring the same quality of coaching and training that we had been fortunate to experience into the training room for our mums. Like, they deserve the best, frankly. That was always our approach with this, is never about cheapening anything at all. They absolutely deserve the best, shoot for the stars. So we pulled in, we went to Google and we said, hey, can you train us on how to deliver your training, please? And they were like, okay. So they did. We've got our amazing trainer called Sally, who was able to do the Myers-Briggs things that everyone used. The quality of the training we were bringing in there was what you would get in any of the corporates down near Temple Meads, frankly. The V is then for vision. So something that you'll hear Rachel and Samantha talk about a lot is around ambition and vision. We really, really wanted our mums to have that space to dream, frankly. Why should you, because you're in your mid-30s and you've got 3 children, why should you settle for a job that makes you die inside every time you turn up there? Why not aim for something that's going to make your heart sing? Why not find the elusive that we talk a lot about, work that doesn't feel like work? That is what everyone is always aiming for, right? And then the final bits of the hive is the E, which is the employability. So the way that we run our programmes now is we have 5 weeks of upfront training with our mums. It's really intense. There's often tears. It's exhausting for our mums going through it. And then we organise for them to have a 4-week volunteer work placement, which again Samantha will be able to speak a bit more about. And then they come back to us for final 2 weeks, which is when we really look at the nuts and bolts employability stuff. And what we have found is that the mums, it's working. And it sounds really, we always have a saying that it's not bragging if it's based on the truth. And it's not bragging. What we do works. We're up to roughly around 2/3, so between 60 and 70% of the mums that we're supporting are working within 6 months of graduating from our programme. We've always tried to shy away, I suppose, from it only being about the numbers into work. We've worked with different funding partners over the years, different government bodies, some more focused on stats than others. What we always aim to talk about is this bigger picture piece of having someone who enters that classroom on day one afraid to even speak up, someone that won't necessarily want to put their hand up, won't want to contribute to the group work, that by the time they leave us, they've got numbers of 5 people in that room that they are constantly in contact with. They are their women, their support network. They're walking out with their heads held high. They see the value in themselves and who they are and how bloody amazing they are. That is the success that we're always chasing, not necessarily the numbers into work. But the numbers into work kind of happen anyway, right? So if you get one going, then the other bit happens anyway. So that is a very, very potted kind of glide through how and why we started. I would say that having been very, very frontline mum focused for the first few years, Rachel and I were, we were doing everything as you do with any startup, right? We've now had the joy, I suppose, of growing our team, and our team is everything, frankly. And again, when you hear from Samantha, you'll understand how bloody lucky we are to have such an amazing team. But Rachel and I, when we first started the Women's Work Lab, it was never about us, and so this is so weird, really, truly, and for me anyway, I hate it. It's just weird. We set the Women's Work Lab up as a social enterprise because we didn't want it to have an owner. We didn't want it to be about us as individuals. It was much more about creating something for our community. This is us. This is our existence. So the fact now that we are creating an organisation that is about our mums, we're up to 16 people now that work for us. A third have been through our programmes. That is the renewed focus as well. So not only are we creating something for our community, but we're creating something for our team. And the growth now for us is about developing our team. So there is nothing more exciting than seeing someone when you're able to suggest a promotion or, a pay rise or things like that, because you know the difference it makes. And it's just awesome. And I feel so fortunate that I have a job that doesn't feel like work. I really do. And I would just want to say to everybody that sit with the discomfort sometimes of privilege and what that looks like for you as an individual. And it's different for everyone, right? And it's okay to kind of, some people don't want to sit with it, and that's fine, that's your prerogative. But, sit with the feelings of discomfort and figure out what you're going to do with it, because that's how progress happens, right? The easy thing to do is just turn and walk the other way and say, I don't want to put myself in that space. And for as long as I still feel moments of absolute discomfort, which I do a lot of the time for various different reasons, then I know that I'm still developing and growing. But I will hand over to my esteemed co-founder, Rachel, and stop talking. Thank you.
Hi everyone. So my little bit is to talk about the Women's Work Lab now. We have gone, you heard from Camilla there, we kind of started on this journey back in 2017 when we started researching it. We did so much work with the community in terms of what the programme was going to look like. It wasn't a programme that we developed, it's a programme that we developed with mums in the community. And now here we are in 2024 sitting on a stage giving a distinguished address. Jeez. And look at that behind me. That is a group of our mums from 2021 who did the training at the venue is at St George's. You've got Samantha in the middle, amazing Samantha, who was just ruling the school. And then over there in the top right over there, you've got Sophia. She's now our marketing coordinator. So these are all mums that, in fact, when I look at all those mums, so many of them are now working and doing their thing, which is just brilliant. And so I wanted to just reflect for a moment as to what it is that happens in the training room and what is the success, I suppose. Because, you know, those are really, they're really amazing numbers to get 2/3 of mums back into work. It's a lot. It's much higher than the targets that we need to achieve for our funders, but that's what's happening. And it isn't something magic that I'm doing or Camilla's doing. It's more than that. So I'm trying to reflect on what that is, because by the end of this year, amazingly, we'll have run 30 programmes across the Southwest. So that's Bristol, Bath, Western, Taunton, Bridgewater, and South Gloss. And there's loads more to come because we're going to go everywhere. You know, it's kind of, that's the plan. Like, ultimately, we want Women's Work Lab to be in every city. So our job now as co-founders is to work out what the secret sauce is, because clearly we can't necessarily go to all of those cities. So I've come up with a few things that I think are what, I've spoken to some other mums and things like that, what I think is the magic in the room. The first one is imagining that you're a mum that, you know, has potentially faced multiple barriers to work. The intersectionality of the barriers that our mums face are just second to none. You may be a survivor of domestic abuse. You may have English as a second language. You may have a child with special needs. You may have your own health conditions. You will almost certainly be a lone parent. Those are just some of the things that you may be facing. And when you're not in the training room, you're probably receiving multiple calls a day from different agencies that need something from you. It might be the job centre, it might be your GP, it might be something to do with your settled status. There's just so much noise in your life. And what we create is a training room and a space for our mums. It is literally a space where we're not asking them to be someone's mum, we're just asking them to be themselves and to think about what their vision for the future is. Not always about what's your vision as Finley's mum. Of course those things are important, but just to have any space in your life where you can think about you is really important. We had a mum recently, she hadn't worked for 30 years because she'd been looking after her disabled son for that whole time. So just to have a space to think about what you might want to do. The second one is the community that we create in that training room. As Camilla said, the Women's Work Lab doesn't belong to us. It belongs to everyone that is ever part of the Women's Work Lab. And the first point is this group here. They all create their own community that's really, of course, we're there to kind of facilitate that, but they have their own WhatsApp group. You know, lovely things happen, like someone might have an interview and someone else in the group will look after their kids for them so they can get to that interview. And it's all those little things, because often mums say to us they have got a support network, maybe in their community, or if you're a refugee living in a hotel, you've got your community there. But actually, to have a community of like-minded women that all want to work at the same time makes a massive difference, because women come in from all over the city, for example, to do our programmes. That's the second one. The third one is the businesses that we work with. We need to work with businesses on those work placements that get it, that get that hiring our mums isn't always the easy option, for example, that get that, you know, our mums are never looking really for full-time roles. They may be looking for part-time roles or school hours roles, but businesses that understand that our women, they're talents, they're incredible. We've got mums that, you know, mums with degrees, we've got mums that have done amazing things in their lives, all kinds of things, or mums that have just got a boatload of transferable skills. That lady who looked after her son for 30 years, like, don't mess with her. Like, she would be really amazing in the right environment for work. But it's just having businesses that understand that and will put the time in and also, frankly, use their social value budget to allow us to achieve what we're doing. So that's another thing. And then the other one really is about ambition. And this was quite a learning curve for Camilla and I, that you imagine that all mums will want to kind of get these amazing corporate jobs and everything else, but actually that's not the reality of a situation. Ambition is entirely individual. And for one mum, we had a mum, for example, that what she really wanted was to work as a lunchtime assistant in her child's school. And that was a brilliant first step for her. And she did that for about a year after the programme, and it worked really well. And it was that gradual progression into work. She's gone on from there, and now she's working as a TA in the school. So time has kind of been excellent for her. But we've got another mum at the moment, for example, who is living in a hotel right over the other side of Bristol, in North Bristol, and her children are in school in Bedminster. So she's got an hour-and-a-half commute each way to get her children to school. And she doesn't even know whether she'll be able to stay in Bristol after that time because she's a refugee and she doesn't know what her next steps are. But what she really wants is to work now. So it's supporting her to find the right job for right now. And the final thing, before I pass over to Samantha, is the reflection there about our team. And I think that is a big reason for our success. Because everyone in our team, to one extent or another, has some kind of lived experience of what our mums are experiencing. But more importantly than that, there are 16 in the team now, and 6 of those people in the team have done the programme. So they've sat there in the training room, and now they're on the other side. And that makes a massive difference because all the time there's always that check and balance on what we're doing because they've been there and they've experienced it, and that's really important. And on that note, I'll pass you to Samantha. Thanks, Samantha.
Okay, so just to say, the closer it's got to me, the more my heart keeps rushing, literally. So as you can see, I'm a little bit nervous, but so bear with me if I do get any brain fog or any memory blocks and stuff like that. So I'm just going to talk to you and tell you about my journey throughout the Women's Work Lab, how I met the Women's Work Lab and stuff. Some of you might have heard my story before, so you'll hear a bit of an update as well today, so that'll be quite nice. So I was on the first ever Women's Work Lab programme in 2020. I was unemployed for 11 years. Well, I say unemployed, but I was a stay-at-home mum with my 2 boys, which both have additional needs. So that's a bit of a job in itself, to be quite honest. And the relationship broke down between me and my boy's father. So I found myself a single mum. Thought, okay, I need to start doing a bit of work on myself, you know, get myself work ready. So at that point, my youngest was in preschool and my eldest was in primary school. So I started doing lots of voluntary work. Lots of that involved lots of voluntary work at my son's school. So I supported with the PTFA at the school. I became a school governor in the standards and the finance committee. I then went on to study my AAT accountancy, and I passed with flying colours. I say that because 2 of my exams I had 100% pass marks, which I thought, wow, okay, this is great. You know, I'm ready. My youngest son at the time just started primary school, so both boys in full-time education. I thought, right, I'm ready. Let's go out there and start applying for finance roles. Okay, so it was probably about 8 months to a year down the line. Nothing at all had come up in the finance sector. The closest I got to employment was in a school, in the finance department, which would have been perfect. Term time, school hours, stuff like that. And it was shortlisted down between me and another lady. They took a whole weekend to decide who they wanted to take on. They came back to me on the Monday and said, you know, I was extremely strong in the interview. I was extremely strong with the finance test. And the only reason they're going to give the job to the other lady is because she has 3 years experience. Now, at that point, I got quite low because I felt like the work I've been doing on myself to progress myself just wasn't enough without that recent work experience. And it's a bit of a vicious circle. If I don't get this experience, how am I going to start? You know, so I got quite low in myself. And then I started just looking for any non-experienced roles, which was gutting after studying for so long. I was quite gutted. And so one day I was at the job centre to see my work coach, and I seen a fabulous leaflet on the wall of the Women's Work Lab. And the first thing that jumped out from the leaflet was placements, work experience. And I thought, brilliant, that's all I need. It was the work experience. So I applied for the programme, got a place on the programme, and once I started, I actually realised then there was, you know, like, I thought I was confident at the time. They literally brought more confidence out, you know, more confidence out in me. There was a lot more than just work experience that I needed, to be honest. To put it in short, the training, what I went through, it literally changed my mindset in how I look at looking for work, you know, to fit that in my family. And it literally brought Samantha back, you know, instead of just feeling like Ruben and Finley's mum, Samantha's back in the world of work, you know, and literally it really helps me to believe in myself that I can do this. So with the Women's Work Lab support, I applied for my first role in 11 years, and that was with Darren Jones MP. And, you know, that job was the type of job before I met the Women's Work Lab, I never would have even applied for that type of role because I never believed in myself. I never thought an organisation like Darren Jones MP would want me. So I applied for the role. Over 130 people applied for this role, COVID times as well, and I got the job. So I was very, very proud. So I had a 6 months contract with Darren Jones MP, and they really liked my works, and they offered me a further year's contract, which was wonderful. And then a job came up at the Women's Work Lab as team administrator. So, you know, it's very close to my heart after going through the programme. So I applied for that role, got the job, and now I've been promoted to a programme manager. I mean, I always like to tell people as well, throughout my journey on the Women's Work Lab, the best bit for me, the most magnificent bit for me was my boys. Because when I got that first role with Darren Jones MP, my eldest, he was 11 at the time, and he was at that age where he was too cool for hugs and kisses, and he just didn't do that anymore. And then I had the telephone call. I ran out into the kitchen. Yay, I got the job. And he actually called his brother out into the kitchen, and then they both hugged me, and I couldn't believe it. It was that moment that I actually realised, because I didn't realise before how much the kids were in this journey with me when I was looking for work. And it really made me realise, my blinkers came off, and I realised that when I was low and my hope was going down, down, so were theirs. Finances and times were tough in their household, and it was affecting the children. I didn't actually realise until that moment. So now working, and then, the boys seeing me progressing and happier, and we do lots more things together. Is actually, that bit is the best takeaway for me, I must say. So, our children are very much there with us on that. So, and then to give you a bit of a further update of what's been happening with me. So, things have been wonderful, absolutely, shocking as well. I think I've been a bit like, oh my gosh, because the end of last year, so I won my first award, which I was so proud. I was very, very proud to accept. And that was for Employer Engagement Practitioner of the Year. So that was wonderful. Family progression, what's for me and the children, we're planning lots more things. Birthdays, are wonderful. I can do birthday parties and stuff because we know how expensive they are, but I can do that now, which is brilliant. The best part of the family thing for our progression is my father, he was from Dominica, and my mother was from England. They're both passed away now. I've always wanted to go to Dominica just to, to see my dad's culture and see where he's from and learn a bit that side of me. And so this year we are planning to go to Dominica as a family, me and my brother, me and my brother and all of our children, and we're going to go to Dominica in November for 3 weeks. And that bit for me, honestly, is like, thank you so much, because, you know, to be able to do that myself without, you know, I'm doing this myself, and I'm bringing these children up, and I'm giving these opportunities for my children. I'm giving this vision for them to see what they can do in their future, and that bit is just totally so wonderful. And then also, lovely news in the Women's Work Lab as well for my work progression. I'm applying for a new role at the Women's Work Lab, and so that's really, really exciting. It is just great to be able to have the belief in myself now. I believe I can do this, and it's just absolutely brilliant. I can't say, I don't know what to say about it. I can't say no more, honestly. It is just so life-changing. It really is.
Do you want me to do the reflections, or do you want to just do the Q&A? I don't know what the time is.
Should we do our reflection?
Okay. Before the Q&A, you see, I love chairing things. I'm just taking over. No, we just thought it would be useful or each reflect for a second on what the most surprising thing we found over the last 5 years. Because Samantha, as you heard, has been with us almost from the very beginning. I mean, she's officially so awesome. Officially only for 3 years, but did the programme, did COVID, all of those things. So do you want to go first?
I don't know if my mic, do I do it without mic? Hello?
You're on.
Yeah, I'm on. So when I was thinking what kind of surprises me still every day, Rach touched on it earlier, the barriers that our mums face and the intersectionality that exists around that is just vast. But touching on one thing that from the very first meeting at the Children's Centre in, I've forgotten where, Brentry and Henbury, that was it, was around domestic abuse. Now, I have been fortunate enough, in my own personal experience at least, not to experience domestic abuse, but until we started doing these focus groups, and still, as this programme develops and goes on and we have more training and things like that, is what domestic abuse actually looks like. I had, I think, very naively always thought it related to physical abuse. But through the hundreds of mums that we've worked with, and even now, as I say, I still continue to be surprised about how domestic abuse affects a mum, or affects people. You know, it's let's not gender it in any way, shape or form. But the forms of abuse that we see most frequently relate to coercive control and financial abuse in particular, and of course physical abuse. But the long-term effects of that abuse are just so monumental. We've had mums before where they have been applying for jobs that they might be wanting to join a financial services company who needs to do a credit check based on what their regulator tells them to do. If someone's been in a financially abusive relationship that they've managed to get out of, you know, first step number one, wow, isn't that amazing? But then they can't move on in their lives because their credit rating is so screwed from an ex-partner who abused them financially for many, many years that they then can't get a job. That is one way in which it will go on. It can then manifest in a coercively controlling partner, for example, who is, again, you've escaped the relationship. You hope, you should be able to hope that would be it. What then follows can be years and years of legal wrangling over custody, for example, where you might have a partner who will absolutely on purpose sabotage your ability to go and get a job by not picking up said child when they said that they're meant to be having said child, because it's another way to continue controlling this person. We have examples literally week on week on week that keep on coming up, and I don't have the answer. This really isn't me. This is really truly me just sharing something that we see day in, day out, and it just never ceases to amaze me, and it makes me so frustrated and so angry, because the bravery that anybody that has survived domestic abuse, as I say, do not need to gender this, the long tail of suffering that continues long after somebody has left an abusive relationship is vast. And I would urge anyone who hasn't been able to educate themselves on it in any way yet, please try and get your heads around it much more, because it's everywhere. It really is. It's so much more pervasive than anyone actually realises. And that's also my other takeaway. So not really sunny, and so I'm hoping these two might be a bit more cheery, but that's the one that I just wanted to share, really.
Yes, I'd like to talk about what's been really surprising for me is when I first started the Women's Work Lab, I always used to kind of think in myself, I used to think to myself, well, how am I going to squeeze me and my boys into this job? How am I going to do this, And now, since going through the programme, I now kind of think to myself, well, what organisation can I squeeze into my family? Because what I've learned since doing the Women's Work Lab and now working for the Women's Work Lab, I've learned about so many different organisations out there what are very inclusive, and where there are flexible hours, where there are jobs out there for mums to be able to work and be a mum, whether you're a single mum or not. And that for me is just astonishing, because even mums what join our programmes, they're very unaware of all the different roles what really are out there and the ways we can work as mums. And that for me is just been phenomenal and amazing. It's just absolutely brilliant.
Cool.
Yeah. And I would just say it's not surprising, actually, but it is the kind of stereotypes that we hear when we hear the government talking about people on benefits and, all of the different things that, that we need to take away this benefit or that benefit because, people don't want to work, really. And that's so far away from the now, by the end of this year, 450 mums we will have supported. Every single one of those mums wants to work more than anything. It's just about finding a working environment that works for them. And also the other thing is, on the real positive, the amount of talent that we have walking through the door every time we start a new programme. We've got mums that may not have much of a formal education, but they've got incredible talent and transferable skills. On the other end, we've got mums that, we've got this amazing mum at the moment. I have no idea why she's not well. I do know why, because of all the barriers we talked about. But she's got an MA. She's, in the last couple of years when she hasn't had a job, she's trained herself up in UX development. She's just like smashing it. And I'm so excited because she's amazing, isn't it? She's going to get a job. And you just think, oh my goodness, there's all this talent out there. And the more that the employers can get on board with that talent and make the adjustments that do need to be made, it's going to be a win-win for everyone.
Thank you so very much. I think the three of you, for me, you've just radiated warmth and authenticity in the stories that you've told us today. And it's very much genuinely about women finding who they are again and enabling them to find work that doesn't feel like work, which I think perhaps is an aspiration for all of us. I wanted to start just by asking one question of my own, if that's okay. You've talked a lot about networks and community and people. How can people in the room help you with what you're trying to do for the mums that you're supporting?
There's so many ways that people can help us. There's the obvious thing, which is supporting us in a way of talking about the work that we do and ensuring that more and more people know about the Women's Work Lab. Our funding, which I'm not going to go into because it's dull, is a lot of it is from government funding, but that's only part of the story. We also we need about a third of our funding comes from our corporate sponsors. So if any of you work in any organisations where you think you may be able to support the Women's Work Lab in some way, that could be work placements, that could be sponsoring workshops that we run, but also we're really keen to hear from people that want to give their time to us, because some of our mums may need more support than just the original support that we give them on the programme, and then they go over to the talent team, but they may need a mentor, and those kind of things are really important too. there's 3 levels really. There's the support you can as an individual, talk about the work we do, talk to your workplaces about the work that we do, talk to us, and then also the kind of bigger stuff.
Okay. We've had a few questions submitted in advance online, so I'm just going to ask a couple of those and then we'll come to questions in the room, if that's okay. So what advice would you give to neurodiverse people who struggle with stress? Camilla.
I can take that one. So what I purposely didn't want to talk about in the main bit is my own neurodivergence. So I'm autistic and have ADHD as well. And I think I was diagnosed 4 years ago now, I think. And like a lot of women, went through the whole kind of gamut of antidepressants and all of these other things before my son, someone said, oh, your son's autistic, like, what about you? And then looking back on early childhood and like all of these things, and they were like, oh yeah, you're really clearly autistic. I'm like, great, okay, cool. So for me, actually, the Women's Work Lab has also been quite a process as I've kind of come to understand and not have another breakdown, basically, of how I can work and not work. I think it's about, I don't know, I can only talk about my own experience, so I can't necessarily give advice because everyone's really different. For me personally, I could not have ever started a business or social enterprise or whatever on my own. What goes on in my head is horrific at times, and being on my own too much is also horrific, but then if I'm with people too long, that's also horrific. So I'm really quite difficult, actually. But luckily for me, my co-founder is really straightforward. So my general advice for anybody who is specifically an entrepreneur that perhaps has that itch, that I've always wanted to do something, really, truly. And I think that's probably where the ADHD bit comes in, and that I've often got a lot of energy and get excited about stuff. But actually it's having, for me, the absolute security, I suppose, of Rachel really helps to keep me on an even keel. And she's really good at, we both live, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, with chronic health conditions, is that fair? Rachel's is more of a physical, mine is clearly to do with my neurodivergence, but we both look out for each other. So Rachel will say, for example, knowing that today will take every bit of my social battery, but I'll love it, but then tomorrow I will be on the floor. She won't put any meetings in the diary tomorrow, and then I've got Friday off because I take Fridays off anyway. So I would say understand how you work, what your ebb and flow is. I do need to socialise a little bit because otherwise I get too introverted as well, so it's really tricky. But then if I go too much, then that's also really bad as well. But get a co-founder, really look at how it works.
Not me though, not me.
Not Rach, she's not up for grabs.
I only do it once.
She's mine. She's not a therapist either. That sounds like I sound like this really impossible person.
But also I wouldn't be able to do it without you. So don't it's not a one-sided thing, because she's the one that's like, let's do it. And I'm not quite like that. I'm a bit more measured. So we're a good combo.
We're a good combo. But look at what works for you and don't be afraid to say no. I think that's a really key thing. And listen to your partner and co-founder if they tell you no as well, because they're often right.
Thank you. And I think one may be aimed at you, Samantha, possibly, but how do you begin to coordinate the multi-agency and policy landscape to support single parents return to work? So someone says in many ways it feels like a board game of snakes and ladders, where there's a propensity of snakes and very few ladders.
Yes. So when we're working with our mums, so when they join the programme, we do work closely with the job centres to to make sure that they've got some support with the travel expenses to inform the programme, because they come to our programme twice a week for the training, and then for the work placements it's 3 times a week. So that's our weather and benefits. That's actually quite a bit of money with, if they're catching buses or something like that. So we work very closely with the job centres just to make sure things can be quite smooth for mums to be able to attend the programme. And then, when we're working with organisations and matching mums to work placements, we really kind of, not vet, but I suppose kind of vet the work placements in a sense, just to make sure that our mums are going to be supported very well on placement, because the last thing we would want is our mum to go to a work placement, it be one of those scenarios what is going to push mums backwards, steps backwards. So yeah, it's just really, you know, working with organisations to give the smooth path for mums to really progress.
I just want to add that Samantha and our other programme managers, we talk about them as the mum of the mums, and what they do to stitch everything together is phenomenal, like really, really, truly, in that they are the referral partners into the Women's Work Lab. We've got hundreds across the whole area, and it's establishing that relationship with them so that we are seen as the trusted partners, which we are. But then it's also being able to occasionally phone a work coach and tell them to back the fuck off and really, truly have those difficult conversations sometimes and stand up for our mums. And it's a really tricky balance that they all manage to maintain professionalism, of course, but advocate on behalf of our mums. Like everything we do, we are their biggest backers and supporters. And it's Samantha's going to be really modest about it, but my God, the work that she does to spin all these plates and pull everything together and keep the boundaries, which anyone that's ever worked in any support work will tell you is really difficult, but to do it all in a boundaried, professional way, like, she's amazing. She's absolutely amazing, as are our other programme managers as well. It's a really delicate balance that they managed to do, but it's great.
Well, okay. Has anyone in the room got any questions? Straight over there. Yes, please. You're right to hold the mic quite close so we can hear you.
Yeah, that's fine. Can you hear me, guys? Yeah, cool. Wow. Super excited to be here. And I shouldn't, because I should be marking the hell out of students' work this evening. But I just couldn't. Your work is incredibly close to my heart for a range of different reasons. It is me, immigrant, me walking through my way up to becoming an academic at UA as well. It's me being single mom, a mother of neurodivergent child, all sorts of things. English as a second language, as you can hear, obviously. And also director of Autism Independence, or one of the directors of Autism Independence. I'm sure you're aware of this organization, guys. And you have spoken so much about the challenges we have in our society. But also it is, I think, important to talk about opportunities as well. And advocacy. We all, as humans, as women, through our lived experiences, can bring forward for others to make a difference. And I wanted to be here just to celebrate your work, because I've read quite a lot about it before coming here, obviously. And also to think about how we can combine our work together throughout the Bristol, Southwest organizations, to not only think about challenges, but also to support equity, because that's exactly what we're talking about. And you talked a lot about neurodivergence. And I teach psychology at UA, and I advocate for neurodivergent students. And I think at the roots of everything we are able to do is the way we define neurodivergence, and it is still defined in a context of disability through legislation, through pretty much everything. And at this moment in time, I supervise a bunch of psychology students who are all neurodivergent. And they all want to change the world, right? And they look at neurodivergence through the lenses of the strengths. That's exactly what I was advocating for many, many years. across Southwest. And perhaps my question is, how do we combine the opportunities, the strengths we all have within our organizations, individual and mutual, kind of to make a difference in such hostile, at this moment in time, environment, especially political environment, which is uninviting, difficult changes and constructive and productive changes within our society.
We talk to each other and we work in partnership with each other, and we've now got to a stage in our growth where we are able to now work in partnerships with others, and we think that's so important because we are not the experts on everything. That's why often we get questions around, you know, why don't you support all women, for example. What we decided was this would be our lane, and that we all need to be in our lane, but then all kind of come together, but not in a pile-up. All kind of come together and work alongside each other. And we collaborate with so many different organisations at different stages. But within that collaboration, we have to have the business community with us, because the business community, frankly, have the dollar beyond just the no, so not because I once asked someone to show me the money like this in a very yeah, it was really embarrassing. But if we have the business community with us, then they can fund us beyond just the funding that the government can give us, and that's the tricky bit, because we are getting good government funding, but it doesn't pay for everything at the level we want to give it. We want our mums to come to our programs and feel super special. We give them really nice notebooks, because who doesn't love stationery? I mean, come on. We give them stickers. We give them lovely workbooks, because we want them to feel like they're being invested in. And often this is no disservice to any other programs out there, but if you feel like you have to pay to print out your CV, then what's your worth when you've got to pay 30p to print your CV out? We need to take that hit, not us personally, but the business community needs to stand up alongside us, because they do have the money that can help us to kind of give it the special bit, and mean that we can work in partnership with you guys and other organisations. I feel really positive about it. I do.
We've got time for one more question from the room. So, I think you could say. Oh, 2 quick questions.
I'll be quick. Firstly, thank you for. I just want to say thank you for being a voice for women, and what you're doing is just amazing. But the question I've got was, you touched on about that businesses need to make some adjustments. What do you think are what key, or what would you say the top adjustments would be that businesses need to make to help support women with placements in the workplace? Just make it a bit easier.
I just feel around hours is like the most obvious one. I work 25 hours a week, Rach works 25 hours a week, we job share the CEO role. It works pretty damn well, actually. Samantha works 30 hours a week. We've just got an office for the first time. Like I say this, we're trying to role model within the Women's Work Lab what we feel that businesses can and should be able to do. There is really, truly, I cannot see a reason why, unless you're working in critical care in the hospital, for example, that somebody needs to be in a specific place at a specific time every week without fail. Well, for example, 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. Like really, really, truly, unless someone is going to die, that really doesn't need to be a non-negotiable in someone's contract. You should be hiring people who you think can do the job, right? That ultimately is what everyone should be looking for. If you can make adjustments around the hours that people work, that is the single easiest way to unlock more talent than you're currently accessing. Like really, really is. And I have worked, without sounding like a total wanker at this point, But I spent 5 years working at Dyson. I spent another 4.5 years working at OVO with really smart, clever, impressive people. I can really truly say that our team within the Women's Work Lab are as good as, if not better, than many of these people that I've worked with over my illustrious career, so to speak. And it's nothing to do, really truly, it's nothing necessarily to do with the level of education or the type of work experience. It's creating an environment for people to thrive. It's trusting people that they're going to do their bloody job, because they do. And they do more than that as well, but we obviously don't ask for that. But create an environment where talent can thrive, and trust people. Trust people to do their job, rather than structuring a job for assuming that people are going to shirk and all the rest of it, because most of the time they don't, and if they do, you shouldn't have hired them in the first place. You should have been able to figure out in the hiring process if someone's not going to bloody work. Like, I don't know, anyway, there we go.
I think it's also about opening up the talent pool, like in terms of when you're looking for hires, that you're not looking in all the usual places. Our mums don't really go on LinkedIn. They don't really go on Indeed. There's that. Come to us. We'll sort you out. But also things like looking at the recruitment things, like, do we really need to make the interview feel like an exam? Like, can we not just give people the questions before, and then they can have a think about it and come and be the best version of themselves, rather than sitting there thinking, oh my God, what are they going to ask me? And the job advert, can we maybe not like talking about, you know, blue sky thinking or whatever, can we just maybe use normal words that people understand and just be normal people, because we're all normal in terms of that sort of language piece. So it's just thinking of all these things and just like stop having all these really high barriers to jobs and then not have anyone apply.
Have the same people apply.
Yeah.
We'll take the last question, and I think we will be around later for if people want to come and speak more personally.
Hello, thank you to everybody. Samantha, this is a question for you. What in particular helped you to change your mindset to go from no one's going to want me, no one's going to hire me, to now look at me in Darren MP's office and I can afford holidays and life again?
Yeah, I'd say the training is what really changed my mindset, because for me, because COVID came along, I didn't actually do a work placement. So I went straight in, into the first role. So the training, I'd say, really, really helped me, because it helped me look back at my past in my life, and it really helped me to move forward with the strengths that I never knew I had, because I'd never had the chance to sit down and really, think about myself. So having that space in the training room to really concentrate on myself and really work through the training, putting my all into the training, that is what really changed my mindset in helping me to believe in myself, and then having the confidence to put the things in practice. So the training is absolutely phenomenal. I even find with like mums on the programme, when they come, when I'm doing the placement matching, I like to leave it a couple of weeks, because in the first couple of weeks of changing, the first couple of weeks of the training, their mindsets change. So they might start off, oh, I think I would like to do this. In a couple of weeks' time, once the training prizes out stuff that they never knew about themselves, then they actually feel like, no, this lights me up. I would like to do this. That's what I'd like to trial. And so the training is the massive mindset change for me.
Thank you so much. Yeah, just inspirational, really fab.
Here's our contact details. We're not going anywhere after this anyway, but just email us. Hopefully you can tell we're quite nice, normal people. Hopefully fairly approachable.
We're a bit sweary though.
Well, no, I am.
I mean, it's not after 9, so pause on that.
Sorry.
Really, you were perfect.
That's what
I'm saying. You didn't sound right.
I guess I was sitting here listening to Camilla and Rachel and Sam speak, and felt humbled and inspired in equal measure. But also I was really struck by what you said about time and space. And they're really important resources, aren't they? Giving time and space. And I guess I was reflecting as you were talking of my own journey. You know, brought up in a council house, single mum, has had, you know, who experienced domestic violence. I've got a neurodiverse young person now, adult, who are full-time carers for, juggling being a mum, being a crap mum, and being crap at work, or feeling that you're crap at both. So actually just finding the time to reflect on that is really important. And I think what you also said, Rachel, about we're all just normal people, you know, doing the best we can. And actually the more that we can kind of normalise changing mindsets, moving to a growth mindset, and some of the things that feel that they're really straightforward but sometimes feel really unachievable, just confidence, belief, networks, connections, someone who's got your back for the highs as well as the lows. I think that's all really important. So I know that you're on a very particular track and support a very particular group of people, but I think there are lessons there for all of us in terms of how we do our work and how we do our practice, and how we all need to be human and be kind, and if we can make a difference to one person or to a whole group of people, that we should absolutely try and do so. So I'd like to give a big thanks to Camilla and Rachel and Sam and Rachel for chairing. I know that you're all going to hang around for a little bit afterwards. We are going to move to Waterside 3, which if you walk all the way through the bar to the other side, there are drinks and refreshments for those of you who can stay. And I know that our guests are going to stay as well. So you could ask some things that you didn't dare to ask publicly, or catch up with them, or offer your support, your services. I'm sure they'd be really delighted to talk to you. And on behalf of UE Bristol, thank you so much for attending. I love these events because they, as I say, they humble and inspire in equal measure. So I hope you can stay for the rest of the evening, but I would like you all to join me one last time in thanking our brilliant presenters. Thank you.